Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning to this video today. My name is Maruti Makwana, and I'm back with another dose of learning AI with Azure. Today, we are going to develop and deploy an AI agent using GitHub. Now, there are a couple of times, people have actually watched our videos and they have requested for one thing, that we are looking for developing AI agents without much efforts. So basically, if you are focusing on that you do not want to install multiple lab tools in your computer, you don't want to develop lengthy codes, and without that actually how exactly this particular agent development is going to work, then this is a video for you. Not only that, we are not going to develop some hello world kind of a agent today. I mean, I hope you know hello world is always like a very basic kind of an agent. We are actually going to work with a specific agent which is going to be integrated with an e-commerce website kind of thing. So we are going to create some kind of a shopping website kind of a thing in which the AI agent is actually going to be incorporated with that, and is going to be helping customers to solve their queries and is going to answer questions based on that. Now we are going to see this thing. So let me just show you what exactly we're going to develop first. And then after this, I'm going to show you that how we are actually going to do that thing. Because I want this particular video for everyone, I'm not going to go into the code of that particular development of this agent, but I will share the repository with you. Actually, this is one of the open sample application which is available on Microsoft GitHub repository itself. I am going to share it with you. In the link of this particular video description, you will find that thing. Also, whatever things which you need to keep in mind, whatever things you need to learn with this is also going to be there. Today's video is going to be a little lengthy, but let me tell you one thing. It's really going to be interesting to deploy and configure this agent. Okay, so let's start with this. Before I do any particular step in this video, I want you to recall few things. Like first, I hope you remember that whenever we develop agent, we are going to associate multiple tools with our agents. So I hope you remember we have knowledge tools and we have action tools. If you're not familiar with this, I request you to check out our previous videos, but I hope you're familiar with this. In the knowledge tools, we are basically going to focus on providing grounding content for our agents. And then in the action tools, we are basically going to focus on what kind of an action specific task my agent is actually able to do. Now, we have discussed about all these knowledge tools and actions tools, but we have not used them practically in our labs. Today, in this particular lab, I am going to use one of the action tool, which is basically this one, which is Open API Specification Tool. Now, this is a tool which is going to help me to call external APIs based on the Open API 3.0 specification. Now, how exactly it's going to work and how we are going to integrate this existing APIs with our own agent, that's what we are going to see today. It's going to be a very important video if you also know how to develop APIs, or if you already have some APIs and the logic of that API you want to integrate with your agent. That's exactly what we are going to see. Also, don't forget, as I told you, the full code repository with step-by-step deployment is what I'm going to share it with you in the description of this particular video. So just check it out. Okay, so in order to do this thing, as I said, you don't need to have any kind of a lab setup which is required in your computer, but you just need one thing, and that is a personal github.com account. So I hope you know github.com is a code repository where you can store your code. It also provides multiple things other than the code repository actually. Like one of the things which is required from GitHub is actually code space. There is something called GitHub code space, which allows you to run your application, which allows you to deploy your application and customize it with that particular environment. Now I'm going to use GitHub Codespace today with one of the public Git repository, and that's what we're going to do. That's the reason we are not going to focus on installing something in our physical computer, but instead of that, all you need for this particular lab is just a free personal account on github.com. I assume that you have it, or if you don't have it, you can pause this video right now and you can just go and register yourself in github.com. Then it is totally advisable, it is totally recommended that you do this thing step by step with me. There are certain things which will not work fine, there are certain things which will give you certain common issues inside that, but we'll fix those issues and we'll learn it with that. So let's get started without wasting time. Okay, but now before we actually develop this application or we integrate this application with our Azure AI Foundry agent, I want you to see that how exactly this application will work. So you can see right now, this is a website which is actually hosted on one of my Azure app service. So this is the app service URL which is available here. And then in this website, we have this fashion store assistant. This is actually that particular assistant which is in the background connected with your Azure AI Foundry agent. What this is going to do, this is going to associate with the internal API, which is developed by the same developer of this application. And using the API, it can actually associate with the fashion store, which has certain products, certain details of the products are also visible with prices. And then once we have the inventory with very limited products right now, we are actually going to integrate this assistant with the shopping cart also. And you can see right now my shopping cart is empty. What this assistant can do is it can actually associate with the inventory and cart. And for this too, we have an API, which I'm going to show you in the code very soon. But then how it is going to work? It's actually going to respond based on the user's prompt. And based on that, it can call the API. And based on that, it's actually going to manage inventory things. And it's going to manage the cart also with that. Let me show you this. So let's say I'm going to ask a question right now that what's in my cart? When I ask this question, as of now, my cart is empty. So obviously, it's going to show me that you do not have any kind of an item right now. So it's showing your cart is currently empty and the total cost is 0. If you'd like to add items, just let me know. Now I'm just going to see one thing that let's say in the inventory, we have different kind of products which are available actually. Now let's say I'm going to say that add one navy blue wash denim jacket is there, right? So maybe one jacket or maybe one shirt is what I want to add. So I'm just going to say add a small denim jacket to my cart. And when I do this, it's actually going to call API. It's going to show me that, yes, I have added a small navy blue wash denim jacket to your cart. That jacket is actually having size S right now. It's going to cost me $59.99. And now this is actually showing me that your total cost is this. Now you can see at the right side, the same thing is showing me cart also. And if I click on the cart, it's showing me that, yes, this one product is actually added successfully. Now, same way, I can do the inventory details also. I can check certain details from that, and I can actually add multiple items into cart. I can check the total of the cart. I can remove item from the cart. This is which is happening with the logic of the background API. And this is exactly what you're going to get if you follow the step-by-step process of this video. So yeah, it's a lengthy video, but I still request you to go through the step-by-step process and you'll get this thing up and running in next few minutes. Okay, so let's get started with that. Okay, so as I said, this is not my URL. This is something which is a URL coming from Azure Samples actually. And I just want you to just hit this URL first. And once you hit the URL, what we are going to do is I have already signed in with my repository. So this is a new GitHub repository account which I have registered. And in this particular GitHub repository, I am going to use this particular code which is available inside this. So what I'm going to do is in this particular repository, which is having this URL, I'm just going to click on this fork. I hope you know that forking is actually allowing you to copy this particular repository into your own GitHub account. So I'm just going to click on fork. And when I do this thing, you can see it's asking me, would you like to create a new fork? I'm saying yes. It's going to give a name of this thing that you will be the owner. So this is my owner account, which is showing me at SkillTech. And then the repository name is going to be AI Agent OpenAI Web App. I'm okay with this name, which is available. Description, I'm just going to say like this is AI Agent repo for Open API 3.0 sample. And that's what I'm doing. Copy the main branch only. Yes, I only want to copy the main branch, and I'm going to click on create fork. So this is all happening online. This is all happening in this particular Git repository only. That Git repository is now going to be forked into my account. So this is my Git repository, and it's going to be having this repository forked into this. You can see this is a fork repository. It is forked from the original repository, which is this one. Okay. So once you do the forking, normally what people do, if you have a permissions, if you have the rights, you will be able to do committing a code into this. You can do branch creation and other options inside this. I do not want to go into that. I hope you know the basic Git configuration. But yes, this is my Git account. This is my forked repository, which is available here. And now if you check here on the right top corner, it is showing me that you have two options. Either you can clone the repository locally by just using this URL, which most of the time we do. If we are developers, we are going to clone the repository, and then we will edit some code, we will modify that, and then we will commit it. But I do not want to change this code. This code is working fine. Actually, this code is having a full-fledged web application which is developed in .NET and MVC. This is actually a .NET 8.0 based MVC web application which is already developed. I'm going to show you the code structure of that also. But instead of locally cloning this particular repository, what I'm going to do is, there is one section here which is called code space. I'm going to click on code space. And in the code space, this is showing me that you create a code space on main. So this is a main branch of this repository. I'm going to click on this. In your case, guys, this is going to do what? This is going to create a online Visual Studio Code kind of an environment. So basically, if you have used Visual Studio Code, this is basically going to provide an online Visual Studio Code in the separate browser tab. And not only that, in the background, they are actually setting up all the runtime environments and all the configurations which are required for this in a separate dev container. Now, I'm not going very in-depth about this dev container and all right now. If you want a separate video on code space, you can just put that down in the comment of this particular video, and I'll create a separate video for GitHub code space for you. But I hope you're familiar with this thing, or if you're not familiar, then also just think about this, that this is nothing but an online Visual Studio Code. Is it okay? It's going to take a few minutes. So you can see right now, it's showing me the Explorer right now that is going on. Also here is showing me setting up the remote connection, building code space. Now this can take 4 to 5 minutes. So I just have to wait for this. I'm going to pause this video, and then once everything is ready, I'm just going to show it to you. So yeah, for you, if you do this thing, it will take 4 to 5 minutes. And then after that, things will be ready. Okay, so now as you can see, my GitHub code space is actually ready. It's showing me 3 sections here. It's showing me the Explorer, which is exactly same like your Visual Studio Code, because it's a Visual Studio Code which is available online. You can see the icon also which is visible here. Right side we have Copilot. Well, as of now, I don't need Copilot, so I'm just going to close that section. And in the below section, we have a terminal. This terminal is something which is basically associated with this repository right now. And whatever commands we want to fire, we can actually use this terminal and we can fire the command. Now, most of the time in this particular code space, we are going to use Azure Developer CLI. Yes, if you have used Azure CLI, which is mostly going to have all the commands starting with AZ, then I hope you know that there is a newer CLI also, which is known as Azure Developer CLI, which is actually going to have all the commands starting with AZD, something like that. Now we are going to try it today. We are going to learn it today. Maybe some of you, or I think most of you, are not familiar with Azure Developer CLI. Then this is a word which I'm giving to you to search. So just search this thing on any search engine. You will get enough information on Azure Developer CLI. And trust me, if you start using this thing, you're going to love it. It's actually making your life very easy as a developer, because it's going to take care of the whole deployment and everything with the help of bicep templates. Now, let me show you the project structure right now. As we know, this is one of the official sample of Azure. So if I go into this, we have some dev container configuration first. Now this is basically created from the code space, and it's going to configure my environment based on this dev container. So it's not important for me right now. For me, the first important thing which is there is this source folder, the SRC folder, which is actually having my web application. As I told you earlier also, this is a web application which is based on MVC structure. So we have some controllers, models, kind of a configuration here. And then they have also created some kind of a components where we have a view part of this basically, which is created with the help of Razor. Now, all this configuration application is something which is having some basic logic, but on top of it, we have 2 controllers here. We have cart controller, which is an API controller. By the way, guys, whenever you're using code space, this kind of pop-ups are actually quite normal. So if this is something which is appearing there, you can just ignore it. Okay. So we have a cart controller and we have inventory controller. Both of these controllers are actually API controllers. You can see here. So these are actually my APIs which are developed in this particular project. And the goal is we want to use these APIs and the logic which is written inside this API through our Azure AI agent. So we are going to develop AI agent. We will integrate this API logic in that AI agent. But how do we do that? Well, that's something which we are going to see with the step-by-step process. So these are the two APIs which we have inside this project. Above that, we have one more thing, which is actually services section. The services section is actually having your agent AI service associated with this. So basically your Azure AI agent service, using which we can actually develop agent, you can configure agent, and you can connect that agent with a unique agent ID and connection string, is all the configuration which we have done inside this code. Now, right now, this sample is little complex because it has almost 200 plus lines of code inside this particular file. But I'm not going to explain this 200 lines of code as of now because this is going to be very lengthy video after that. Well, in any case, if you want to go into this one, you can actually use this repository and you can deep dive into this code. We are going to develop this kind of a code in the next video. So basically, after this, we are going to see how we can customizely create this thing step by step. But because this is a ready-made Azure sample, I am not going into the in-depth of this particular code right now. But this is that code which we are going to develop in the coming video. So don't worry about that. And even before going to that particular developing that code, you can go through this code, and anyone who's comfortable with C# will be easily able to understand this particular code because it's a straightforward and simple code. The important logic is inside this file, Azure AI Agent Service.cs, because this is the one which is using your agentic service, and then this is the one which is actually going to configure all those things inside that. So you can see Azure AI projects, Azure Identity. These are the packages which we use normally while developing project, and that's something which is used inside this particular class. Now, above all, because this is a project which is creating APIs, and I'm assuming that you already know how to develop APIs, this is actually showing you one more file here, which is swagger.json. I hope you know that Swagger is helping you to understand API documentation. In most organizations, when you are having multiple APIs, Swagger is going to help consumer developers to understand the API structure. It's also going to help you to understand what kind of parameters you're passing, what kind of request header, response, and all the things which are configured in that API. This is a swagger.json which they have given for this particular API project, and I'm going to use this thing somewhere. Now, after all these things, because this is a web application kind of an API project, I need to host this somewhere if I want to use it. And that's the reason they have given me another folder which is called infra. This infra folder is basically having infrastructure as a code. I hope you know this term. And if you don't know, you can comment down this thing in the video and I'll explain this separately in the video. But yes, this is something which is your infrastructure as a code. Basically, in most of the enterprise level applications, we try to automate deployment with the help of things like ARM template, Bicep template, Terraform, Ansible. Now, different organizations use this kind of different templates. We are going to use something which is a Bicep template. So if you check this infra folder, this is actually having one particular file which is main.bicep. This is that file which is actually having the step-by-step template to deploy multiple services. You can see right now it's going to deploy my AI hub, my AI project. It's also going to deploy my language model, is going to configure that thing. So there are multiple services which are going to be deployed with the help of this template. It also has some parameter files which are available inside this. And then it has some abbreviations.json file also, which is available here. Now, this whole configuration which is available inside this infra is actually going to set up my deployment. As of now, if I go to my Azure subscription or Azure portal, I do not have any new resource of AI agent which is deployed inside that. I am going to do all these things with the help of this particular code only. And how exactly we do this thing? Well, that is something which is mentioned in the repository itself. If you have forked this repository with me in your own GitHub account, then you can scroll down to this repository, which is actually showing you information about this function assistant web app on Azure App Service. And then with this, if you scroll down, it's actually going to show you 3 commands. It's showing you 3 Azure Developer CLI commands, which are starting with AZD, as I say. The first command is you have to do AZD auth logging, which is basically going to authenticate your Azure subscription with this, and it's going to link that Azure subscription with your code space. Once this is done, you have to just do 2 new commands. First one is AZD environment new, which is going to create a new environment with whatever name you want to specify inside that. That environment configuration, it is going to be stored in this repository in this code space. After this, the final command, which is actually going to do the whole work, is AZD up. Remember guys, AZD up is a command to take the deployment and publish it to Azure Cloud. Suppose if you want to remove that thing, we have another one which is AZD down, and AZD down is actually going to just remove all those things with that. So we are going to do AZD up first, and then later on, if we need, we will do AZD down also. Let me copy the first command, and I'm going to paste it here in this particular command prompt, and I'm going to hit enter. When I do AZD auth login, it's actually showing me that you start by copying this code, and then you have to press enter to continue to log into your browser. So let me just copy this code. I copied it. I'm hitting enter. It's opening this in my browser. Now, once this authentication is done, let me go back, and you can see it's showing me that you have logged in successfully with the help of this particular email ID. So this is done. Now let me move to the second command, which is actually going to create a new environment. Now, when I want to create an environment, I can actually give any name with this. So I'm just firing this command azd environment new, and it's asking me now that enter a unique name for your environment. I am going to choose that my environment name is Maruti env for environment, and then I'm putting some number, like let's say I'm putting 1717, and I'm going to hit enter. Whatever name you're giving here, with this name, they are going to create some configuration in this section. So let's see that thing. I'm giving a name Maruti environment 17, and if you just observe, we have a section which is called Azure now, and inside that we have Maruti environment 17, and inside that we have two files, env file and config.json file. This command is basically going to just create a new environment with this kind of a configurational file. This configurational file is going to be used when you are going to deploy your resources. Now, two commands are done. The next and the final command which we have to do is azd up. Now, this is the trickiest part of this particular lab. Guys, when you are going to do azd up, you have to choose a right region. There are so many regions which are actually available in Azure. There are certain regions in which maybe based on your subscription, you are going to have certain limited quota. There are chances that certain resources and certain regions will work for you, and there are chances certain things will not work for you. So in my case, I am going to use one specific region, and if that works fine, then I'm going to use it. If that is not working, then I have to remove those resources and I have to redo that thing in the different region. That is something which is always like that. Now I'm going to start with one of the first region, which is East US2. If things works fine in the East US2, great. Otherwise, we'll use another region, let's say Sweden Central. Now, I told you these are the two most priority regions which we can use. If things are not working in these two regions, then maybe you can go for some other region also. Let's say I'm going with AZD up right now, hitting enter. It's downloading the bicep configuration, it's initializing the bicep provider, and after all the thing, it's going to ask me my subscription. I'm choosing my subscription. Then it's going to ask me the location, whichever locations I can use. You can see the first preference they're giving me is East US2. Now, let me just try one thing. I do not want to go with East US2 as of now. So I'm just going to go with Sweden Central. Let me go to Sweden Central. Yeah, I'm going with Sweden Central. I'm choosing this one, and it's going to choose that particular region. And now it's going to just package my services, and based on this, it's going to start provisioning. This provisioning of resources is going to take minimum 4 to 5 minutes. So that's why once it is going on, you just have to wait. Remember guys, I am going to pause this video at this time, and suppose if the whole deployment is done, then it's going to show me all the green ticks with that, and I'll be able to see the resources. Suppose if something goes wrong with this region, which is actually Sweden Central, then I'm going to change the region to some other location, and then I'm going to try the same thing. This one command which you have to do, azd up, is the most important command to deploy this whole resources automatically with that. There are chances that if you try to do this thing manually, it will take few minutes, if not hours. And that's the reason this is the fastest way to deploy your resources. That's something which is the magic of Azure Developer CLI. So I hope you like it. In my case, it's showing me that it has started this process right now in the Sweden Central. And if I want to see that thing, I can click on this URL, and this is going to show me that what exact deployment which is going on. So let me just click on this URL, and you can see it's asking me to sign into my Azure account, providing my authentication, and this is showing me deployment is in progress. Now I have to wait either here if I get some error, or maybe in this particular terminal if I get some error, then I have to do the needful things. Okay, so this is perfectly fine. I'm just recording this video, but yeah, you can fast forward this, or you can, if you're trying this parallelly, as I told you, this is going to take at least 4 to 5 minutes. Now I'm just not pausing my video right now. I decided it earlier, but not doing this because if it is showing me some error, I want you to see that error, because maybe some of you will get similar kind of errors. And then I want you to see what steps you need to do when you want to change the region. So you can see my region is actually something which is detected here. My subscription is also something which is detected here. Now, normally, if this is not working in one region, what I do is I create a new environment, fresh, and then in that new environment, we are going to start from scratch. So some people do this thing that they just change the region here. Don't do that. Okay, that's mostly not going to work. So you have to just create a new environment. You can maybe remove the older environment and create a new environment with a different name. And then you can give the region which is different than the first one. Okay, so that's how you can take care of this. Now let's just wait for a few more minutes. Now, as you can see, it is showing me that multiple resources are actually deployed, which includes my app service plan, app service, storage account, Azure AI service, even the model deployment is done. And now it is actually showing me machine learning workspace also is something which is getting deployed with this. So all the things are actually showing me done. And now finally, it's actually deploying my web service, which is basically nothing but this API project, which is getting deployed with that. If that is also deployed, it's showing me the URL of that. I'm going to hit this URL also. And this is an external website. So do you want to open it? Yes, I want to open this. And it's going to show me this website, which is here. Now, obviously, this assistant is not working as of now, but this is a website which actually got deployed with the help of this. And you can see right now, it's showing me that it took total 5 minutes and 16 seconds. In my case, this whole deployment took 5 minutes and 16 seconds to deploy this thing. So basically, this is how it is. Now, this whole configuration is done in 5 minutes. If you manually try to deploy all the resources, it's minimum going to take 30 to 35 minutes because you have to configure all the things. And then also, you have to take care of all the things which are connected with each other. Okay, so this is obviously a preferable thing. Now, I have this URL of this particular web application, and this is a URL where actually the APIs are also hosted. So if I want to check whether the APIs are available or not, I need to go back to my project. I need to go inside this source folder, inside that controllers, and inside that, if I go to cart controller or inventory controller, I can see the URL of that. You can see this is API/controller. Now, basically the name of this inventory and the name of this controller is cart. So maybe if I want to check whether this is successfully deployed here or not, I can just do /API/cart. And maybe that's going to give me the JSON response. This is a JSON response, which is showing me that my cart is empty right now. So the web application is deployed successfully, but agent is still not connected because there is no agent. We have not created any agent which is connected with this thing. But this is a time where you can check the inventory, which is showing you some of the products which are available. And you can check the cart also, which is obviously going to be empty right now. All the executional things of this cart and the management of products with this particular one is which is going to be done by the assistant, which we still need to configure. And that's the most important part of this application. Okay, so right now this is fine. I'm just happy with this application deployment in the Sweden Central region. Now it's a time I have to go to my Azure AI service. So basically now I'm going to go to this particular browser, which is right now having Azure AI Foundry portal associated with this. Now, when I go to ai.azure.com, this is that particular portal which is allowing you to configure and manage agent with this. I will go here and let me just refresh it. Let me see if I have any resources. Yes, if I refresh this, you can see it's showing me that I have some resources which got deployed in Sweden Central. Now in this, I'm going to click on View All Resources. And you can observe here, there are 3 things which got created. You have one AI hub for agent. This is a hub-based project. So there are 2 kind of projects which are available in Foundry. One which is with hub and one which is without hub. Now right now, this is AI hub for this particular agent. This is my AI project. And this is my AI Foundry resource, which got created all in the same subscription. I'm going to choose my project right now. So I'm going to choose AI project for agent. This is going to show me that agent which is getting loaded here. So yeah, this is my AI project for agent, which is available here. I'm going to click on agent section. And I think GPT-4o is already deployed in this. So I just have to choose my service. This is my Azure OpenAI service, which they have provisioned with this. I'll click on let's go. And yes, this is showing me now a page which is allowing me to see my agents. I can create and debug my agents here itself. And by default, they have created one agent, which is agent 73. This is how it is always going to create one agent with this. So it's showing me one agent 73 with some kind of an ID associated with this. We have agent ID. We have agent name, which is available here, but we do not have any kind of instructions or some other configuration which is given here. Now, this is the time we are going to configure this thing. So let me just tell you what kind of an agent we are trying to configure, and then what kind of things this agent is going to do. So as I said, in the separate browser, we have this particular fashion store assistant. So this is basically my assistant who's going to help me in shopping in this website. It can maybe give me a product details. It can maybe add a particular item into my shopping cart, and it's maybe going to show me how many items are available in the shopping cart. So this kind of things this assistant is going to do, and it's also going to reply with a certain kind of an answers when I ask something which is inappropriate. So maybe out of this fashion store, if I ask some other information and which is not available inside this, is maybe going to say that this is not what I know, and maybe this is an inappropriate question, something like that. So that's what this agent is actually going to do. Let me do one thing. Let me go back to my configuration here. And now it's the time we are going to set it up. The first thing which I need to do is instructions. I'm providing an instructions here. And if you check here, I'm saying that you are an agent for a fashion store that sells clothing. You have the ability to view inventory, update the customer's shopping cart, and answer the questions about the clothing items that are in the inventory. So this is what the main purpose. You should not answer questions about topics that are unrelated to the fashion store. If a user asks unrelated question, please respond by telling them that you can only talk about things that are related to the fashion store. And this is a simple instruction which I'm providing to this agent. Now, this is fine. This is an instruction which I want to provide. After this, agent description is optional, so I do not want to provide anything in that. And then we have knowledge tool and action tool. We always associate some of the tools with our agent so that it can work fine. Now, at this time, I do not want any knowledge tool because I do not have any kind of a knowledge grounding data which is associated with this. But I have an action configuration here. So I'm just going to click on add action. And remember, in add action, we have multiple action tools which are available. In this particular lab, we are going to focus on OpenAI 3.0 specified tool, because this is that tool which is allowing me to take input and output configuration with my OpenAPI specified tool. So basically, my OpenAPI 3.0 is already developed in that project. Now we are going to integrate that with this agent, and that's how both of these things are going to be connected. I'm going to select this OpenAPI 3.0 specified tool. Is giving me an option to give a proper name for this. Now I can give whatever name I want. I'm just going to say this is my OpenAPI underscore custom tool. This is a custom tool. We will discuss about custom tool in depth because we are going to see a couple of custom tools actually in the next video. But yes, this is my custom tool, which is going to allow me to add my own logic inside this. And in the description, we can actually give anything. I'm just providing something like this tool is used to interact with and manage an online fashion store. The tool can add, remove items from a shopping cart as well as view inventory. So this is a simple description. It can be anything. It's not like instruction kind of thing, but it can be anything. I'm just going to select this, clicking next. And now this is important thing. When you are using OpenAPI specific schema and tool associations with that, you have three different authentication methods which are available. Anonymous means you do not want to provide any authentication right now. Any anonymous user can actually access and request the API. Or maybe you want to use managed identities with that, which is a preferred way you can do this thing. In most enterprise applications, we will prefer managed identity. By the way, if you do not know what is managed identity, you can comment down in this particular video and we'll create a separate video for that in that. And then we have a connection, which is basically establishing a connection with the help of connection string configuration and all. Now, as of now, because this is our first lab with OpenAPI 3.0, I'm choosing anonymous. I do not want to take care of any authentication, authorization right now, or identity management right now. So I'm okay with anonymous, and I am going back to my repository. In this repository, we have swagger.json. As I told you earlier, swagger.json is actually having your API schema, your API definition is available in this particular schema. I'm going to just select everything, Control A, Control C. This is what I'm doing. This is a full configuration of almost few hundred lines. You can see 500 plus lines are there. When I copy and paste this 500 lines of configuration, the schema is proper, the schema is correct because it has all the information which is required for this particular API. But there is one thing which is missing here, and that is why this is showing you this kind of error message here. It's showing you that the format of the URL is incorrect because we do not have any URL in line number 10. This is basically just a placeholder where I have to put my app service URL where my APIs are actually hosted. So instead of this placeholder, I'm just going to provide a proper URL. From where can I get this? Well, this is the same URL which I've shown you earlier, which is this one. So this is my actual URL of my application, and the APIs are also hosted here. I told you /API is something which is available here. So this is my URL. I'll copy this and I'll paste it here. Indirectly, I'm simply specifying here to this agent that, hey agent, your open API which you have to call is available on this URL, and this is a schema definition of that particular API. So you have to follow the schema definition using Swagger. So this is my swagger.json. I'm okay with the URL also now. I'm going to click on next and I'm going to click on create tool. When I do this, the linking between this agent and that API is something which is done. So basically now this agent is connected with the API and it also knows the schema definition associated with this. Now remember, there are two different things which you have to link. Now this agent is capable to use the API logic, but the job is not done yet. Another step which is still remaining is I have to use this agent not in this particular agent playground, but I have to use this agent in the separate website, which is this one. So this is actually the same website. We can have a different also, but in the same website, this particular assistant section, which is actually available here, this should work with the integration of that agent. So if I put some particular input prompt here, this should actually use that agent and it should connect with that. So that part is still missing. That part is still remaining. Okay. And that's what we are going to do now. Now, in order to do this thing, I have to go to my Azure portal. So let me just open a new tab, or I think my Azure portal is open in one of the website here itself. So I think this is my Azure portal. I'll go to this particular resource group where everything is created. I think this is the resource group. And inside the resource group, I will go to my app service. This is the app service, which is having this API deployed inside that, as well as the web application deployed inside that. I will go to a section which is settings, and inside that we have environment variables. Guys, in every application, you always have multiple environment variables, which mostly you store in app settings.json. In this case, this is an application which is based on .NET, and that's why we have some kind of an environment variables which are configured here. I want to add two environment variables here, and these environment variables are actually used in the configurational code. If I go back to my logic, somewhere inside this particular code, I have services, and as I told you, in this Azure AI agent service, they're looking for something like connection string and agent ID. So this is basically something which you have to provide through the environment variables, because it's looking for this kind of environment variables which are going to have a name, Azure AI agent connection string, and Azure AI agent ID. So this is something which I have to provide. Let me just copy this. This is Control C. I'm just copying this. And in this one, I'm going to say I want to add a new environment variable. The name of the environment variable is going to be this one, Azure AI agent underscore connection string. And then from where I'm going to provide the connection string value, and from where I'm going to provide my connection string value, well, that is something which I have to take from my project. So I'm just going into my overview, and in this is my project connection string. This is a connection string of my project which I have to copy, and I'm going to paste it here in this. So this is how that project is connected with this app service. I'm going to click on apply, and then I have to add one more. And this is going to be Azure AI agent ID, because inside this one project we can have multiple agents. With which exact agent you are trying to connect, that's also you have to specify. So I'm just going to provide a unique agent ID for this, which is available in that agent. So let me go into that agent. This is my agent and this is my agent ID. So I'm just going to take this agent ID, copy, and we'll paste this thing here and we'll click on apply. So these two variables, or I can say environment variables, we have configured here. Both of these environment variables are successfully configured. I'll click on apply, confirm. This is going to update my app settings. And it is advisable that once it is updating the app settings, you always go to Overview tab and you try to restart this application. This is something which is a best practice, that if you are updating certain environment variables, you just restart your application once. I did this thing, it's showing me successfully restarted the web app. And if that is the case, now it's the time I want to click on this particular default domain, which is basically going to open this website in the separate browser tab. And this is a page where I have to now check whether my agent is connected and it is giving me the responses or not. Okay, so let's just wait for this page to load. Okay, so this is showing me that my application is loaded. Let me see if the agent is working or not. So I'm just going to add a simple question right now. Let's say I'm going to check that what's in my cart. I'm just asking this question. Let's see if it is responding properly or not. It's saying your shopping cart is empty. Would you like to add some items? Now, okay, this means that it is empty right now, which I know. Let me add some prompt here. So let's say I'm going to say, add a small denim jacket to my cart. So I'm just saying add a small denim jacket to my cart. Now I know in the inventory that there are some denim jackets which are available. So it's just showing me, okay, a small navy blue washed denim jacket has been successfully added to your cart. Your current total cost is $59.99. Would you like to add anything else? Now, let's say I can ask for a few more questions right now. So I'm just going to ask a question like, do we have any blazers in stock? Blazers spelling, sorry, not double Z. Do we have any blazers in stock? I'm just asking this question. Do we have any blazers in stock? Yeah, it's showing me that we have following blazers. Product name navy single breasted slim fit formal blazer. Size is available. Size are currently out of stock. So basically this is out of stock, so I cannot add this thing, so that is fine. Now maybe I can ask some question like what's the total of my cart? So when I ask this thing, maybe it's going to understand that it's going to say the total cost of your cart is $59.99. So basically this is working fine. I can also see here that in this website, it's showing me cart is having one notification one. And if I go into that, it's showing me that one product which I added here is actually visible here. So this is how it is. Now manually also I can maybe go and add something. So maybe I can choose a particular product. Like let's say I'm going to add this casual shirt with the size, let's say XL, and I'm going to say add to cart. And when I do this thing, now two products are actually added into this. And if I go back to assistant, and if I again ask a question that what's the total of my cart? I'm asking again the same question. I added one product in between actually, and right now this is not working fine. So if you see right now, it's not knowing that the new product is actually added, and it's still showing me $59.99. So this kind of issues are there with the sample because it's not a full-fledged application. So when you are doing this thing, just make sure that maybe there are certain things in which you're not happy, but this kind of things which can manage, obviously, because that's something which is actually calling that API, and using that another call of that API, maybe this is going to work fine. So that's something which is not handled in the sample because it's ultimately a simple sample created by Azure. Uh, Important thing is when you are working with this agent, this whole thing which is working in this browser right now is actually again associated with that same agent ID. So if I go back to uh, my thread section inside this, let me just click on agents. Okay, I'm going to refresh this page. So this is my agent configuration. And you know that very well if you have checked my previous video, that every time when you have an agent, that agent is actually going to have multiple threads associated with that. Now, in my case, I don't know why this is not showing me any thread configuration here. Yeah, it's showing me now. I selected the thread. I'm going to try it in Playground. And when I see that thread, this is actually going to have the full conversation which we have done. So you can see what's in my cart. That's the first thing which I've done. Then add a small denim jacket into that. It's showing you that configuration also. And if I check the thread logs, whatever things which are happening in that application, the thread logs are getting stored here. So I can see which tool they are using. You can see this time this is a custom tool, the Open API specified tool which you have used. And this time when you're doing a first call, when you're doing a next call, it's actually using that Open API tool and is calling that API. And then whatever response you're getting from that API, that is something which they are actually trying to utilize here. So you can see it's showing you that particular request response also, the input and output data configuration with that. And this is how you can actually debug your agent very well. So this is really cool. Integrating your own API with your project is something which is straightforward and simple. The only one thing which I'm not focusing in depth in this particular demo right now is I'm not focusing on this particular code. So basically, when I go to this repository, I told you the most important code is actually this one, the Azure AI Agent Service.cx, because this is the one which is integrating with your agent using agent ID, and then is taking care of the thread and everything. This is something which we are going to develop in our upcoming videos now. So we are going to develop it from scratch, step by step, and we'll do that thing. But I hope you understood that how these things are connected and how these things are working. So I hope you liked it. And if you like this thing, this is the time you should like this video or you should subscribe to our channel. And if you feel like this video can be interesting for your friends and colleagues also, please feel free to share this video on your social media platform. I'll see you later. Thank you so much and happy learning.